So we've helped you to digitize the workflows in accounting. We've helped workflow across your business. But what about helping workflow across the entire financial ecosystem? Yesterday, Steve called out our acquisition of Lockstep as a bold move. It is. It's also one of the most significant acquisitions we've made at Sage. Lockstep provides advanced AR automation, which can reduce DSO by 20 days or more, which has an incredible impact rising the cash balance in your business, but also in simplifying all of your operations. So you'll hear more about the integration of these capabilities with Sage products in the days ahead. But I want to tell you a little story here. One of the coolest things about my job is I get to meet really intelligent people who have a vision for the future. And occasionally, I meet a kindred spirit. Last year, after my keynote, I met Peter Horridon, who is the CEO and co-founder of Lockstep, and he and I immediately bonded over this shared vision on how we can use technology to revolutionize the accounting industry. Those are weird kindred spirits that talk that way, just FYI. So we started to brainstorm some ideas on what we might do together, but ultimately we decided that Lockstep should become a part of Sage so that we could together as one company pursue this vision that we're so excited about for the future. So please join me in welcoming the co-founder and CEO of Lockstep and one of Sage's newest employees, Peter Horridon, to the stage.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Aaron. That was a great conversation last year. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. The entire team at Lockstep and I are thrilled to now become a part of Sage. We think of ourselves as accounting nerds. A lot of us have been in this business for decades. And for me personally, this has a lot of meaning. My experience with accounting started 40 years ago. I was age 12. My father's an accountant, and he asked me to help him balance his columnar pad. And I know I'm going to date myself, but who remembers columnar pads? Anyone? Yeah, some. So a columnar pad's like a spreadsheet before spreadsheets. It's a piece of paper, and it comes ruled, so there's rows and there's columns and cells, and you fill it in with your pencil. And you fill it in just like a spreadsheet, and then you have an adding machine, and you add it up with your adding machine. And that's how we did spreadsheets. And we had to make sure the math was right, because you're doing it manually. So we had something called cross-footing. So cross-footing is you'd foot the columns, you'd have a total for all the columns, and then you'd sum all those totals. And then you do the same thing. You'd add across rows, and you'd sum the sum of the rows. And the sum of the columns and the sum of the rows needed to match. And if it didn't match, you'd made a mistake, and you had to go back and do it again. And that was cross-footing, and that's how we did spreadsheets before computers. Well, I loved computers. And so when the Apple IIe came out, I convinced my dad, hey, we got to get one of these, and we got to get you into spreadsheets on the computer. And so we put all of his spreadsheets on the computer. And for about 6 months, he still used cross-footing. He would have on his spreadsheet sum of totals, sum of columns, make sure that they match. And I would say, hey, Dad, you don't have to do that anymore. The computer's not going to make a mistake. And the fact that it took him about 6 months to get used to it, for me, that was my first experience with digital transformation, actually as a young teenager. And not just digital transformation, but also just how long it would take, and how hard it would be, and how it takes time to adapt to new ways of doing things. And so fast forward 40 years later, it's a real privilege for me to be standing on stage at Sage Transform, talking to you about some of what we see coming in the future of accounting. So we've been at this for a long time, but we as an industry still have work to do. We started Lockstep based on the idea that accountants need much better tools to do the work that they do every day. See, one of the biggest problems that we see with accounting software today is that it does the books of one company at a time, or maybe one corporate structure at a time. And this makes sense because that's how we were trained to do accounting. Well, you do the books of the company that you're looking at. But that's not actually how the world works. See, all business is connected. We're all buying and selling from each other. We are contracting with each other. We are complying with government regulations with each other, such as sending 1099s. All of this work are connections between companies. And so accounting teams work together to close the books, because your books are not just what's going on at your company, but it's also what are your relations to every company you do business with. You see, if I'm a vendor and you buy from me, then in my accounting system, there's an accounts receivable or AR balance. And in your accounting system, there's an accounts payable, or AP balance, for me. And those two numbers need to match, or at least they should, if we've done it right. If we haven't, there's a problem. And if I have 50 invoices in my system for you, those same 50 invoices in my system need to show up in your system. And if you pay 10 of those invoices, I need to mark the same 10 paid that you've marked paid, otherwise we really have problems. And you know how Steve likes to tell AP stories? We've got some nice horror stories about payment reconciliation that we have from getting that wrong. So because every business in the world works together, you would think that your accounting software would handle this for you, but it doesn't. And so what's happened is today's AR and AP teams have become this weird kind of human glue that has to stitch together all these disconnected accounting systems. Let me ask you, who in this room has ever received a PDF invoice in email, if I might ask? Okay, I think I see like every hand, all of us, right? If you're in business, you get these you get these all the time, constantly. You have received evidence of the problem. Because think about it, this started off as data in the vendor system, and somehow it needs to get into your system so that the vendor can get paid. And so the best idea that we have is to take this information, put it in a PDF, and send it as an email, usually to the wrong human, right? Because you're sending it to the purchaser. The purchaser's not in accounting. And so, let's say I want $1 million from you. I'm going to send you this email. It goes in your personal inbox. It gets slotted between the notice of 401k enrollment and Friday's bake sale. It's sitting in between there. And you're just hoping they don't delete it or don't forget about it, that they somehow forward it to accounting, and it will eventually get entered into the accounting system, and you'll eventually get paid. That's what we do. That's what we do all the time. Well, the average AR and AP clerk gets over 100 emails a day. They spend 50 to 75% of their time answering those emails. And when you look at how do they do it manually. It's almost entirely manually. Hand reading the email, going into the accounting system to find the information to formulate a response, hand composing the response, and sending it back. If you think about it, the problem is that there's no purpose-built tool. Why does it take, as Aaron was just talking about, why does it take 20 days to close an accounting period? The reason is because the state of your books is actually spread out in the email inboxes of your entire organization. Now think about it, these transactions are digital from the moment they happen. Somebody at the supplier entered it in their computer when it happened. Why can't we close the accounting period on midnight that the accounting period ends? Well, the reason is we have to go collect all these emails and make sure everybody has sent in their information. And that leads to two other issues, audit risk and the lack of control, right? You're not entering this information timely, you might miss it. It's not a controlled system if it's managed in the email inbox of all of your employees. So we think that there's a better way, and we call it connected accounting. The idea of connected accounting is that we will actually make accounting systems talk to each other. And once you do this, it will allow us to rethink every workflow. Because the workflows we have today are based on times before the computer. It was based on when we were sending stone tablets for goats back and forth, right? The workflows we have don't assume that our accounting systems are connected. What if they were? How would that change the workflow between our organizations? So I'd like to spend the rest of my time showing you how we're starting to address this problem. What if I told you that there's already a network between all accountants today? There's already a network that every accounting team is a part of. It reaches every company in the world, and accountants are using it every single day to exchange accounting email. That network exists. It's called email. It's actually email. Every accounting team in the world has some email front door. It's usually an address like receivables@company.com or payables@, or accounting@, or maybe if you're a sole proprietor, it's just the address of the person's individual email address. But there's usually a place where the accounting team wants you to send accounting information. And what happens is that information goes into the personal email inbox of accountants, and they figure out how to go do with it. But they do that with Outlook and Gmail. Now, Outlook and Gmail are terrific, but they're not purpose-built for accounting. Think about it, every other discipline in your company has a purpose-built system to do their work. Sales teams have Salesforce.com. Customer service teams have Zendesk. Your developers have Visual Studio. Every team has something that was made for it. If you think about it, the sales team would never run the sales process on Outlook, would they? And the customer service team wouldn't handle all the incoming customer cases in Outlook. But in accounting, that's what we do because it's all we have. And so it's time for something better for accounting teams. And that's why we built Lockstep Inbox. Lockstep Inbox is the world's first purpose-built system to handle accounting email. So actually, one of the most interesting innovations of Inbox is we figured out how to give your computer 3 arms. We've designed Inbox to transform the way that accountants do workflow. So let me show you how it works. Inbox is a collaborative, browser-based environment that your accounting team uses to manage all of this email that's coming in. So the first thing we do is we take the email and we get it out of going to people's personal inboxes, and we have it come into a shared environment that your team can use. And this has a lot of benefits. It's all in one place. It's archived. You can search it easily. One of the hardest things that we find accountants tell us is, finding an invoice I got 3 months ago in Outlook is hard. Searching for that's really difficult. You can't search by company or invoice number. In Inbox, you can. Here we're showing a typical inbox of a sample company. And you can see one of the things we've learned working with our customers, there's a lot of things come in here. You see there's a royalty report, there's a request for compliance information, there's a tax certificate. And each of those different kinds of emails represents a different unique workflow that the accounting system has to take on. So let's take a look at how Inbox can help you with one of the most common workflows there is, which is here's a new invoice, please pay us. So this invoice comes in a typical accounting workflow that happens today, a human clerk would open that up, read it, do a vendor match, maybe do a fraud check, do a duplicate check. If everything's in order, they'd go ahead and hand enter the details and then route that for approval. Now that may take 3 to 5 minutes. We can do that all for you automatically. So that email comes in, we've used Sage's AI capabilities to understand the intent of the email. We've sent the accounting invoice out to the same AP AI service that you just heard Aaron talk about, and that invoice has already been scanned in, categorized, and is ready to be entered in your system, and that can be done for you automatically. Let's look at another kind of workflow. When are you going to pay me? So again, this typically involves somebody saying, well, let me find the invoice number, go look that up in the accounting system, come up with a response. Again, we can do that for you. Because Lockstep is connected to the accounting system, it actually knows about the state of what's being asked for in the email. And so Lockstep can just go into Intacct, find the information, suggest a reply, and then have that reply be all ready to send. And if the reply looks good for you, you just click send. Now, we care not just about incoming email, but we also care about outbound as well. One of the most common things you do is done any of your customers who haven't paid you yet. So you can easily get a list of all outstanding invoices over a certain age, select the ones you'd like to send a dunning notice to. That dunning notice is composed and sent to those customers using a template, including the invoice, including how to pay, and that can be sent out immediately. Again, these are all ways that we're trying to save you time and make email a lot easier. Now, let's look at, pardon me, I'm sorry. So the other thing that we want to do is move work out of email into self-service, move it to the web. And so what we do is every copy of Inbox includes a self-service capability, which is what you see here. So your customers and your vendors can click on the email that you send them and be able to log into a view of just their data in Intacct. So you can see, if you're a customer, you can see all of your invoices, you can see how your payments were applied, you could file a dispute, you could update your contact information, you could download compliance information. And the same thing if you're a vendor. And so you can say, hey, I'm happy for you to stay in email with me if you want, but if you'd like to just do this yourself, here's a web-based way that you can do that for you. So we're eliminating work and elevating it, getting it out of email, getting it to self-service on the web. Our ultimate goal is to move to direct connections between accounting systems. We feel that this change is inevitable. If you think about it, like think about Star Trek, right? Like think about Captain Kirk. Could you imagine after a hard day on the bridge, he goes back to his cabin and opens up his email, and sitting there is a bunch of PDF invoices for starship parts? Like, that's not going to happen, right? Sometime between now and then, accounting systems will actually be able to talk to each other. And once that happens, we will be able to do digital transformation, not just within your organization, but between organizations. And at Lockstep, that is our mission. We're starting by embracing the way it's done today, email. We're making email easier, we're moving it to the web, and we will eventually move to direct connections. And we are delighted to now be doing this all as part of Sage's digital network.